Welcome to Sex in Toronto City, a podcast where we explore the modern dating world and offer advice to help you find love and make meaningful connections out there. As a single mom, immigrant, and divorcee, I know firsthand how challenging the dating scene can be. But despite the heartbreaks and pain I have experienced, I'm determined to find love again. Join me and my guests as we share our experiences and offer insights and tips to help you navigate in the dating world. Whether you are a seasoned pro or a complete newcomer, I am here to help you find love and make connections. I am your host, Beatriz Vieira, and I can't wait to have you along for the journey. Thanks for being here. Hello, sexy people out there. Welcome to one more episode of Sex in Toronto City, part 2 with Hannah Spanky. Yay! We made it on a beautiful Saturday morning. We are here waking up sharp and bright to answer all the questions that you guys been posting on my socials and send on my privates. Guys, I love that so much, that being related to you and has been resourceful and powerful message that Hannah has to share with you. Hannah, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm super excited to hear all of these questions and to answer them.
Hannah, you are beautiful. Honestly, so many people are proud of you, the survival of this patriarchal mentality and humanity that we live in. And I just wanted to say that from the bottom of my heart, as a woman, I related so much with the troubles that you went through and, the things that you experiences. And I just wanted to say thank you for your vulnerability, because it's a very hard, something would have happened to me like that. I don't think I could have put on my face out there and say the words that I have to say, even though it's so important as a woman that we speak up and that we say out loud, no, it's no. And no for bullshit, no for taking advantage of us, no for, taking advantage of a poor woman or somebody that is in a mental health that is not as powerful mindset because of the society. So thank you so much for you to be that beautiful person and advocate for women to empower themselves in the right way. So welcome back.
Thank you.
Let's dig into that. Now you are everybody knows your face. Everybody knows who you are. But for you that is listening to this episode for the first time, this is episode part 2. If you did not listen to part 1, just stop right here, because it's juicy. It's important that you go back, listen part 1. So Hannah, please, for those that do not know you, introduce yourself. The floor is yours.
Hello. I'm so happy to be back. I'm so happy to be having this conversation. And if you didn't listen to part 1 or you don't know who I am, my name is Hannah Spanky. I am a board certified clinical sexologist, licensed authentic tantra practitioner, and a relationship and life coach. And I specialize in helping people really sift through and separate themselves from the trauma of their past, whatever that may be, whether it's some similar to mine or otherwise, so that they can create the life and the relationships that they want to have.
Wow. Beautiful. Hey, Hannah, I will just dig in right in and, with the questions that I have formulated, and also all the questions that our followers and listeners are listening. And let's shout out to them too. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for you guys being here. Shout out to all my people, friends that's been advocating, constantly messaging me on Instagram. If you're not following us, go there at Hannah Spanky on Instagram and all platforms. And podcast is on Instagram is just at pod Sex in Toronto City, and all the platforms just Sex in Toronto City, guys. So no further ado, Hannah, let's dive into the past, present, and future.
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So after where we stop at, we have known that you chose to do sex work because you thought that was empowerment and you thought that would have get you in life and you didn't need to get a shit from men. You are the one in power. You are the one in control the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Now we know that's what you thought back then is not what you think now. You are
Mm-hmm.
like a far journey from that, the 16-year-old self. And I would just ask you this question right the way, because I think it's very important to where we left off. And a lot of people has been messaging me to ask you this question. I think it's so juicy and I should have left at the end of this conversation. But I would jump right in the beginning because there's a lot of more content in the part one that you can kind of say it, answer this question. So people want to know, and so do I. Uh, what would you say to the 16-year-old Hannah, knowing where you are at and all the passages, all the men, all the stories, all the struggles, all the tears, all the, what would you say for that young, beautiful, free spirit, yet conditioned to a patriarchal mindset?
Mm-hmm.
If you could have her like face to face, would you hug her? Would you take her in
Mm-hmm.
your arms and just give her a huge hug first? Maybe pat her face a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
look straight up in her eyes?
Mm-hmm.
Or would you just give her the shit, be that punishment kind of type of mother, because we have that feeling of mothering inside? How do you approach that? How do you talk to her?
Mm-hmm. That is such a great question. And I'm like blown away right now because for two reasons. It's a question I've never thought of myself to like really think about it from that angle. And I've never been asked that before. So I'm so happy you just asked that. So two things come to mind and they're completely opposite, like completely torn on that. So on the one side, growing up without my mom in the picture for the most part, there was very much like an emptiness and an absence around that, like what you said in the first part, like with the hugging, the tenderness, the nurturing, like that just wasn't a part of my life. And so I think that would be the thing that I would want to give to her now, knowing how much that impacted me to not have, you know. And so I think that is absolutely what I would give her, to let her know that it's okay if she's scared. It's okay if she doesn't know what she's going to do with her life yet. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And that she doesn't need to perform in any way, because that is really how I stayed in the industry as long as I could, because I was getting these claps and praise from people outside of myself for performing a certain way. But it didn't start there. It was my whole childhood, in school, in whatever I did. I was always trying to be the best. And I could see it now as just really seeking that validation, really seeking the nurturing that I never got. And so had I had that, I think it would have gone completely differently for me, because I would have gotten that validation from where it really mattered and felt validated myself without needing to find it somewhere else. And so that is the first thought for sure. But on the other hand, and this is the opposite answer, kind of, not the punishment piece like at all, but and I've said this for so long, and I really do believe it, that I don't regret anything in my whole life. Like even the most obvious mistakes, I don't regret them, because I am such, like, my faith is unshakable with this. I'm such a firm believer that every single thing, good, bad, in between, that we experience is what shapes us. It's what provides us the next step and the next step and the next step, the next step. And had I not gone through that almost decade of self-torture, I wouldn't have the capacity to help people with their pain now. I wouldn't understand how to empathize with certain things. I wouldn't, there's so much positive that's come out of it. And so as kind of a teaching moment on that is like, I encourage anybody listening that does have regrets about any part of their life to be willing to let that go, because it just keeps you stuck in the past. And it's not something that is ever going to change or happen. There's no time machine yet. And it's like all of it, every single piece of your life has a good side and a bad side. And so even the best of times, like there's a bad side you could find of it if you really tried. And so even the worst of times, like there is something that you can take from it if you choose to have that outlook. And so that's just the outlook that I've kind of like, it's like such blinders. There's not even another outlook. Like that's the only one for me. And so that's really it. Like I would want to support that version of myself, that girl version of myself, to really let her know that like she doesn't have to give herself away in order to be worth anything. And that if that is her path, if that is the way that she needs to learn these things, then I still wouldn't make it wrong.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I'm so emotional this morning because I'm a mother, and I work with kids and I love kids so much. And I think as a mother point of view, if I ever knew that my little girl would have been putting herself out there because she misses me in her life, and she misses me looking her and tell her, you're beautiful, you are smart more than anything.
Yeah.
You are creative, you are funny, you bring me joy, and I'm proud to be your mom. You are just like me. Give tenders, my 20 years old, she lives far apart from me, like she's 5 hours, and I have been down there 2 weeks ago or 1 week ago for celebrate her birthday. And when I looked at her, I said those things to her. I said, you know what? I was a little crazy like you are now. You are just like mommy. And it's so nice to be able to hug this kid and to make sure that you are pouring to them. So I want to pour into you this morning and say that I love you and that I appreciate your presence in such a short time. I really do.
Thank you.
I hope you can feel that.
I can. We didn't know this was going to be the...
Well, welcome to the podcast where we are real.
Where we talk about sex and cry.
Oh my gosh. You know what? It's a beautiful thing to be genuine. And this is what you are doing. And I really wanted to encourage you and support you and other women out there that's listened to this, that if we are really genuine with each other, transparent, and we share our stories and we are able to feel the other person and relate it to them and know, like I can relate it to how you feel because I do have a kids. And I can just like, I feel like just jump out of the script and say, come here, and I will give it that love.
I want to come.
I'll never be a mom for a week, like, or 2 or whatever you need,
Yeah.
And I become mom at 20 years old. So that, like, I can feel. I cannot just like go cold and be like put in a face here and pretend nothing. I'm not feeling nothing, because I feel your pain. I feel the desire and the want and the need to be loved by your mom, So let's move on. try to keep this going. But so I have here on my phone an anonymous listener. Love you.
Okay. I love you.
What advice will you give it to a woman who have financial needs, don't want a relationship, and want to choose sugar dating as a way of solving their financial and social needs?
Mhm. Yes. So I think that that question is so fucking flawed to start, because it implies that a woman would ever sugar date, and that is the most sugar coated version of what that is. It's prostitution. It's not dating. It's prostitution. Period. Doesn't matter if you want to call it call girl, uptown escort, sugar baby. Those are all, in my opinion, like sweet nothings that have been labeled on top of what it really is to make it more socially acceptable for the person buying the sex and the person selling the sex. But it is prostitution, period. And that's why I'm such an advocate of using that word now in my own story, because that's what it is. Like, slap America in the face, fucking wake up. Like, that is what you're talking about when you're glorifying sugar babies or high-end call girls. Like, they're selling their bodies and somebody's buying their bodies, period. And so to fix the question, in my opinion, we need to completely take the implied notion out that a woman is ever sugar dating, prostituting herself, selling her body to somebody. And this is another key thing. A woman that's getting paid for sex with a person 100% of the time would not be having sex with that person for free, or else he wouldn't be in that role and she wouldn't be in that role. And so it's not her desire in any way for it to be, for her social needs to be met, the way that was just phrased. Like, it's a financial desire, period. And then maybe there's some unconscious things that she's getting from it that she doesn't know she's getting from it, like I did with the approval and the feeling like you're being taken care of in some way or another, feeling like you're appreciated or like being clapped for in some way.
Mm-hmm.
But it is absolutely not because she doesn't want a relationship. That's ludicrous. And it's not because she has a social need at all. That's fucking bananas wrong. Like, that is not true. And so, to kind of reframe the question, what is my advice that I would give a young girl that is struggling financially and has financial needs to be met and is considering selling her body to a man she would not have sex with otherwise in order to meet those needs? That's the appropriate version of that question, grounded in reality.
Mm-hmm.
Like, exactly kind of the answer that we just went through for my 16-year-old self, that like, life is going to be hard sometimes. And that doesn't mean that you sell yourself out because you have a bill to pay. You don't need to bring yourself down to such a low level where somebody that you don't have feelings for, that you don't love, that you don't even have an interest in, has access to the most intimate, vulnerable parts of yourself, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, in order to achieve your rent.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, if you have to go work 3 fucking waitressing jobs and you're a janitor at night, like, you're going to feel better about yourself and you're going to endure much, if any, like none trauma compared to what you'll get by going on a date for an hour and making $500 and then fucking hating yourself for the next 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And not to say that I hate myself, because I don't, because I've done the work, but I know that the majority of women who have been through experiences like that, they're left in the dark because it's not something that's, like you said, it's not something that people are transparent about. It's not something that there is a space to be transparent about for the most part, which is a reason why I'm so grateful for this podcast and to have this platform, to have this conversation with you, for people to listen, because the majority, heavy majority of women in this industry, whether it's voluntary or forced or from desperation, whatever, they endure this trauma. They likely don't even know that it's trauma at the time because they're so dissociated, which is necessary to go through it. And then they live with that. And it impacts the rest of their life. It impacts how they see themselves. It impacts how worthy they are the next time they go on a date with someone they actually care about. It impacts everything. And to imply or believe in any way that it's because she doesn't want a relationship or she has a social desire to like climb a ladder or something, I guarantee you that 20-year-old hot girl does not give a fuck about being at your doctor's or lawyer's event with a bunch of 50, 60-year-old men. That's not her agenda, I promise. And so, yeah, that's my answer to it, to just really know that you can do the hard things and you don't need to sacrifice yourself in order to do it, to get through it.
Well, thank you. And From an anonymous listener, the same question. He's asked 2 questions already, but this is a second part. He says, what advice would you give to single unattached men who have the financial resources to sugar date to get their physical and social needs met?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with that, again, I don't believe that it's a social need at all. And that again implies that like the physical and social need piece of that both implies that a man for some reason deserves or is like entitled to having sex or entitled to being seen a certain way by his peers or his, colleagues or the world in some way. And that's not true. And so the advice I have is I want to highlight that word unattached, single unattached man. Like what I believe you're unattached from is your emotional reality, is you're dissociating in some way or another in order to believe that as a sex buyer, which you are as a sugar daddy, it's not a glamorous thing. Even if you put the glamorous name on it, you're still buying sex. You're buying access to another human's body and time. That is not any different than somebody who drives down, some slimy fucking street in LA and picks somebody up on the corner and then has the stereotypical like raunchy hooker encounter. That's the exact same thing as a guy who takes a woman out and buys her a new dress and takes her to dinner and then has sex with her in a $500 hotel room. There's absolutely no difference. It might be more luxurious, but it's the same exact experience. Mm-hmm. And so the answer I have to that is to have that person, and any man that's listening that believes that there's no harm being done when it feels like mutual exchange, like it's both people are happy with what they're getting, is what is happy? What does happy mean to you? And what is the emotional need, the emotional void that you're trying to fill by paying for somebody to have sex with? Because it's not just a physical need. It's not somebody walking in the door saying, hey, what's up? Peace. Here's my vagina. Have sex with me. Like, that's not the dynamic. You're coming in, you're having a conversation. Oh, ha, 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 pet your shoulder. Like, it's a whole entire interaction, And so they're paying for their ego and their emotional needs to be met and just not even realizing it. They're paying for emotional intimacy first and foremost. And then the sex is just the obvious thing that they're going to get out of the interaction. But I would say the advice is look at your emotional, like, where are you devoid in that department? What do you need to fill emotionally from yourself or from another person? And why are you so comfortable being single and unattached at whatever age you're at in life? If you're happy being single and you're happy being unattached as a grown man in whatever chapter of life you're in, why do you have unmet needs that you need to pay a woman for? And so really kind of check yourself is my answer of like, what's your true agenda? Because it is not what you think it is.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever become like really good friends with any of your clients, like that they actually intentionally just help to you financially? And because they kind of become with the sense that, okay, this girl really is a good woman and she does need help, so I'm going to just help her without any motive behind. Do you ever have that kind of experience?
I want to say yes, but when I really think about it, it's still like there's still some weird strings attached kind of a thing, even if it's not a physical interaction. So I have a personal story here. I have an example of this. Mm-hmm. So there's this guy. He's cuckoo, real cuckoo. He's like very emotional basket case, you could say. All kinds of crazy trust issues, very, very poor boundaries with himself. Like he works like 80 hours a week and then just like, like really, really overdoes a lot of things in his life. And so he has a lot of emotional needs that are not met, that he just kind of doesn't understand they're not being met. And so he would go to the strip club. When I worked at the strip club a long time ago, that's where I met him. And then we would see each other outside of there moving forward because it was, more in alignment with what we were both doing at the time. And so he would get incredibly hurt, emotionally hurt, and act hurt when I would kind of snap on him and kind of lose my shit a little bit, because he'd be like, oh babe, I just want to cuddle, and I'd be like, don't fucking call me babe. And I would kind of like say some shit like rude back to him, because to me it was like, you asked me in the last episode, like, did I ever fall in love, or did I ever anything like that with one of these guys? Absolutely not, because to me it was a job. It was transactional through and through. There was not a single piece of me that wasn't seeing it as a business deal. And so he was really blurring those lines all the time, but I wasn't. And so he would get hurt all the time by like, oh, why are you so mean? Why can't you just be nice to me? You can't even just pretend. And it was just kind of sick to me that he even would be okay with me knowing that I was pretending, you know? And so, so that was a few years long of relationship. We would see each other every couple months. Like, he was out of town a lot. And years after I saw him last, we had no connections. I called him one day and I was desperately trying to fix my computer. It was the very beginning of my business about 4 years ago. And all of my business is online. And so that's like my lifeline. I need some shit that works for the internet. And if I didn't have it, like, I wasn't going to be able to do XYZ. And it was the whole thing. I was very stressed out about it. So still coming from this place of like seeing myself as this damsel that needed to be saved without really knowing it, I thought, oh, who could help me? Who could help me? And I called him, and I had a very long, in my experience of it, very like gross conversation with him, just like saying all the things I knew he wanted me to say. And then through that conversation, he agreed to buy me a new computer. He bought me a computer like over the internet. And then I got the computer. I've still never seen him again since then. And so like, technically, yes, he helped me, because he like was, I guess, empathizing with my pain in that moment and like not expecting to get a physical exchange for it. But it was only successful because I was trying to cater to the emotional needs that I knew he had, that he wanted me
like
to
you were
meet.
stroking his ego kind of thing.
Right. And like, I knew he wanted to be wanted and wanted to be needed. And so I was really playing that hard, versus if I was actually just being authentic and like asking for what I needed point blank, I don't believe he would have helped me, because he wouldn't have had any reason to, you know? And so that is the only example I could think of, but pretty
it's
much
a good
no.
point that you, yeah, thank you, Hannah, for that. It's a good thing that you touched that, because doing the podcast and all of that, my journey, and for those that doesn't know, I started that because dating in Toronto suck. Everybody seems to just want to fuck and have a sex, and they not empathetic with what a life struggles maybe a single mom or a woman has in general, in a very fast-paced big city where everything is expensive. You go out, those dudes will expect you to pay half of the bill, or just ask you for like for me, coffee dates, they're not quality dates. I don't go on them. Don't ask me to go for coffee dates. I'm gonna say blunt no. I want a man that would like really take serious my presence, my time, to take me for a proper date. And dinner, yes, or like if it's like something where I can see his face and talk, see his eyes, Coffee for me is like very like, I can take 10 girls in a week, pay a little $10 each other. And then like, now, if you're serious about your dating life and dating me, you will sit down and you talk to me through a dinner, through like, and it doesn't need to be like the most luxury, but I wanted to sit down, spend 1 hour, 2 hours with this person, and evaluate after how did I felt during this time. So for those that just go on coffee dates, I don't agree. And I don't know your opinion on that. I would like to listen to your opinion, having like the experience, the man needs and all that. But my point was, listen to you saying that, I feel very empathetic with the men too, because I feel that they are big fucking assholes in the world. There's more than there is the good ones. in my experience as a woman, like I met more assholes than I met the good guys. But I did met the good guys, and I dated them, and I stayed with them for a long time, and I had a babies with them. Do you know what I mean? Like I did it, and I still like really good friends with my ex, or or the people that passed in my life that I dated for a long period. We're still really good friends, you know. So I feel bad for the men out there sometimes, because there is a lack of emotional things to be dealt in them. Like there's a lot of work, a lot of trauma, a lot of like men do suffer too, and they suffer more maybe in silence. And the way to rebellion is to begin this kind of like, I'm gonna fuck everything and I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna shit, blah blah, like they think they are the powerful fucking thing in the world. And I had a friend, a male friend, that was going through a breakup. And I remember that I just learned that, and I through a social media thing, and I run to his place, stay there, talk to him and support him. And until this day, he tells me, Bia, you changed my life. You changed the way that I was becoming. Because that night he said to me, I'm going to fuck everything. I'm going to just fuck everybody. I don't care. I'm going to be an asshole. I look him in the eye and say, but you're not an asshole. So for you to want to become an asshole, you're not going to succeed. You're just going to make a lot of mistakes. You're going to fail a lot to go and do therapy and then get it back on the point where you are, because you're a good person. You have a good heart, good soul. Don't try to become something that you're not. Right? So for the man listener to that, I just wanted to tell you that you needed to do some work and to really do some search on how to become a better man, and what it is to be a better man, and really think about it before you go out and date. Because like when I am in this Facebook group and I look all the men that's been post pictures, and people send me screenshots, friends send me screenshots, say, Bia, don't date this guy, because I'm not excited. Oh my God, I'm gonna go on a date. Oh, it's so exciting. Oh my God, he's so cute. And then I read the most ugliest things and I'm like, turn off. And I'm like, ew. And then I'm gonna think, is he doing the work? Is he doing the work knowing that? Because yes, it's not a nice thing to have your picture exposed out there. It's not a nice thing to have a woman saying shit about you. But what are you doing? Are you taking that to the negative, like you said, with your experience? Or are you taking something good out of this and improving yourself? So Hannah, thank you for saying that, because you are, again, one more time, so transparent, where you say men do need to also have some attention, like the 16 years old,
Yeah, absolutely. Like the woman goes both ways. It's like we're always a match for something, and that's really liberating when we are willing to be personally responsible and take control of our lives and make it what we want it to be. But it's also really shitty feeling and confronting when we look around in our lives and it's not the way we want it to be at all. And it's like, what the fuck? I'm the match for this right now, And so that highlights where the work needs to start, where the work needs to be done. And when it comes to like sex buyers, sex sellers, they're equally wounded. They're on the same frequency of the wound. And so they're just conditioned differently. Women are conditioned, just speaking generally here, women are conditioned to lead with sex in that way, to sell themselves easily, to commoditize themselves easily, because they're hoping that the guy is going to love them. The guy is going to save them in some way. They're coming from a victimized mindset and not even knowing it. And then the same is true on the reverse, like without knowing it. The guy is leading with sex, leading with money, trying to give and provide in exchange for these breadcrumbs of emotional intimacy that he doesn't even know he's looking for, that's what he's really paying for, but that is what he's paying for, And so it's like he's conditioned in the society to not be allowed to talk about that, to not be allowed to say he feels unwanted, to not be allowed to say he feels undesired. And so it's easy as fuck for a guy to walk into a strip club, pay $40 to get in the door, and then pay girls money to have them sit and stroke their ego and talk to them and tell them, oh, you're such a nice guy. Oh, wow, you do this for work, and like pretend to be interested in. And that feels good for a moment, but it's just like anything else that we're doing that we know isn't the solution. It's like binge eating or drugs or drinking or whatever. It's a hit of fake pleasure. It's instant gratification in the moment, not real pleasure. And men are conditioned in our society to only have a very, very, very small, socially approved of outlet for pleasure: sex, and maybe food, maybe beer and fucking burgers or whatever. You know, they're not allowed to enjoy a walk outside in nature. They're not allowed to talk about what they like to do,
I
you know?
love
Exactly.
this
Exactly. And so like there's so much shame built in for men around having emotional needs, period. And so it makes sense. And I completely like I humanize everything on both sides of the street there. Like none is better than the other. No one is the sole driver for the industry. But I believe the foundation of it is because men are so disconnected from their emotional needs and knowing how to get them met that they outsource them, and then it feeds into the self-worth of the feminine, and it keeps it going.
Yeah. So that's how about the coffee date? What did you feel about that?
Yeah. So I totally hear where you're coming from. And I don't know if this is me agreeing or disagreeing, but this is my thought on it, is like, I would say don't even go as far as inviting them for a coffee date. Like, I personally think you need to have like a phone call or a FaceTime, one or the other. It doesn't really make a difference to me, but at least some version of hearing your voice and connecting, like for more than 10 minutes, 10-20 minutes at least, talk on the phone before you decide if you want to go out with somebody, because everybody is putting their best foot forward on their dating profile. They're going to have their best pictures, their best, attributes, their best stories, their best one-liners. And that's not who that person is, like, to the core. It might be parts of them, but it's not their truth. And you can't really understand if you're actually interested in somebody until you can hear and feel their frequency, And so it's like, don't spend any money is my recommendation. So I don't know if that's agreeing or disagreeing.
I love that you said
talk on the phone before you go out.
I love that you said that, because I have this huge debate on this group chat that I am with like all singles, men and women. Mm-hmm. And I'm the administrator there. It's my hive on Bumble. Mm-hmm. And some of them is listen to this, so pay attention.
Yeah.
So I told them, whatever you do, always get in a phone call before you go on a date. But also do a video call afterwards, after being talking for a week, before you go meet this person, have them face to face. Because even though it's not like a person, you still can see it. You can still have this feedback. Like, I'm here, we never met, but I love you. Like, I feel this connection already with you. I can relate to you. I love your personality. I love how you dress yourself, and like I can like we'll be besties like forever. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I tell them, and like people like, oh no, I do not get in the phone call. I feel so weird out. Like, I can't do this. Like, what? And I had offer I initiated, because I feel like a man are scared to approach a woman, even for asking to have a phone call or to have like a face-to-face FaceTime video. And I offered a guy recently, actually, that asked me on a date, and I said to him, hey, let's get to a video call. And that's what made me had this huge red flag, because when a guy refused often, more than 2 times, to go on a phone call with you or in a video, he has something to hide. Like a man, when I don't know, I try to put my masculine energy here and think, if I was a man in the society today, that is so hard because women get a more match than a man does.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm offering you, hey, let's do a FaceTime. Let's talk. And I say no. It's something weird.
Yeah, to me that immediately like translates, and this is totally just an assumption, but like immediately that means that person's agenda for a physical date in person is not to have a relationship. It's not to connect. It's probably trying to have sex, probably trying to, that's it. Because that's the only reason they would be willing to spend the money, if they aren't willing to actually invest in the connection before even spending $1. Like, why would you turn that down if that was what you were looking for?
Exactly.
So yeah.
For one of my followers and one of the people that has listened to also, and I never met her in person, but she's a very smart woman, and she want to know, she was in one of my hives, and she want to know, uh, do you think that if you were born in a society where you were extremely wealthy, do you think you would choose the same path, or the fact that you would have been, rich would not have made you go towards that? Do you think like the patriarchal, yes, we understand that the influence had on you, but also like financially, if you were in a more safe position, do you
Mhm.
think that would have made a different impact on you?
Absolutely. And like, just like blanket statement, yes. But the like caveat to it is like, I do believe that there are rich parents, rich families that can still totally instill like a poverty mindset in their kids. It doesn't matter how much money they have in the bank necessarily. They could still teach their kids that like they're not worthy of money. And so, or they have to, do something that they don't want to do for money. That's still the mindset is the problem, I think, not the actual dollar amount. I think it's the mindset being taught unintentionally. Of course, parents are always doing the best they can with what they have, and it's not their intention to traumatize their kids. But that happens, And so I think it's coming from the place of like scarcity in themselves, no matter how much money they have in the bank. Like I said, if they are in a place of scarcity themselves, that's going to be what the kid sees and feels and hears when they're in that first set of their years where they're really just like a sponge. They absorb all of that, and that becomes their internal truth. And then they're willing to do things they don't want to do, cross their own boundaries in the future in exchange for money, And so that's my kind of caveat to it. But in general, I would say yes, because for me personally, growing up a lot of the time, like I didn't know how much money my dad made or didn't make as far as like the actual dollars, but I knew that we had enough money. I knew that there was like, we weren't going to be homeless tomorrow, but like there was always this up and down, like feast or famine cycle with his business. He was a contractor. And it was like some months when he had a lot of money, we were doing all kinds of shit. And some months when jobs were harder to find, or a client defaulted on their payment or whatever, it was super, super high stress mode where he's like, I'd want to do something from school. Those little book catalogs you bring home in like elementary school. Oh, can I get this? Can I get that? Just like fucking window shopping as a little kid, they want everything. And I would like, the things I would hear from him, the words would be something along the lines of like, no, you don't need that. That's a waste of money. We can't afford that. That's a waste of money. Those types of things. And so it starts to instill this deeper seated belief that I'm not worth what I want, or like it's going to put somebody else out to spend money on me. And so then we are more inclined to people please our way into receiving money. And so that can look as non-extreme as doing a job you fucking hate because you feel like you don't have another choice, because you feel like you have to do this thing in order to earn the paycheck because you don't deserve it in a way that you might enjoy. And it could be as extreme as like my situation where I was willing to give myself away entirely for the money because I felt so like on the deepest level undeserving of it that I felt obligated to give more and to give more and to give more so that I could justify receiving the amount of money that I was receiving. So if it's instilled, no matter how much money you have as a parent, that your child deserves every single thing that they have, they don't have to earn it. I paid for everything you have. I can fucking take it away. That kind of parenting punishment stuff is so detrimental on the mindset, on the psyche, because it teaches the kid that they don't deserve the things that they have. And truly, as a child, if we're developing with a secure attachment, that is a one-way street. Our parent is providing for us. We are not supposed to be providing for them. And so, like in any way, emotionally or obviously financially. And so if we are taught in one way or another that we aren't doing our part to get what we are, in my opinion, should be just given, then we will absolutely take that mindset on in some way in our careers later, whether it's sex work or otherwise, that we need to put up with things we don't want or do things we don't want in order to deserve what we need to live.
Oh, Hey guys, so I just wanted to give here a little side note that was part 2. There is a part 3 coming up next week. And I really wanted to thank again all of you and of course my guest Hannah for her vulnerability. It's not a light subject and it's not easy to open up. Like I really wanted to you guys to understand how hard it is for a woman to come up here and say publicly to the world what has gone through her life and the choice that she made and why she did and the influences that the world that we live in has impacted on her. So on that note, I would appreciate it for you to contribute and help me to keep doing the work that I'm doing by following me on Instagram and leaving positive feedback here on the reviews. Thank you.